Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Russian Garage. We're continuing to work on our Avant with the V10 S6 swap. Those of you that subscribed and watched the last episodes, welcome back. Those of you that are new, last episode we were struggling to get this big piece out, the tunnel, because this tunnel is a lot more narrow than what is needed for the S6 transmission to fit in there. So we're struggling to get this out, but we finally managed to get it out. It's a huge piece, really thick metal. It's pretty heavy, and it was just intertwined inside the car. I'm guessing this is probably the first piece, and the rest of the floor and body is added to this. So we're digging this out, the very first piece. We're trying to dig that out of the rest of it. So let's check out what we did. So now we got a big gaping hole in our car. We've got most of this stuff cleaned up. It's not 100%, but most of the metal straightened out that we got bent up in removing it. So we got a little bit more prep left on this, but before we get this 100% done, we got to get the other piece out of the parts car. All right, we did already get a head start on this car. We got the seats pulled out, we got the carpet pulled out, the center console some halfway pulled out, and we did all this because we wanted to compare what the floor seams look like, if it's the same as the Avant, and the only difference is that the tunnel is wider. Like here you could actually tell that the carpet and everything had a bulge in it, and I think one of you guys did comment on that the carpet is different, and we did notice that. So I'm hoping, and from everything that we see here, all of our seams on where we took it apart on the Avant, it's all the same. We took a couple of measurements. The cross beams for the seats and the seat tracks, those are actually the same part numbers. So I think it's good to go. So we're gonna go ahead and get the rest of this center console out. We gotta pull this whole dash. We gotta basically strip it down to the metal, so we can cut out this tunnel, and then we're going to trim it out outside the car so we don't have to be all hunched over. Before we start getting that dash all taken apart and getting ready to put it out, we are going to go ahead and remove these doors since they're pretty easy to remove. We're going to remove them so they're not in the way, and that way we don't damage or scratch any of the door panels, because we are going to be using the ones off of this car. Alright guys, we made pretty good progress. We're going to wrap it up for today, but we got the dash frame out. All these wire harnesses are loose. Next is we got to get this heater core out of there, but in order to get that out, we have to get this part of the heater core out, because this is the fan and those two are connected. So we had pretty much everything at time lapse. There wasn't really much to say. So it's all time lapse, but we'll come back tomorrow and keep working on it. Guys, we're back here the next day. We actually didn't put up the camera for this because it's more of the same, but we got the heater box out. We got all this cleaned up. The whole engine bay is completely cleaned up. We got a couple of lines to remove. We still got the rack to remove from there and the suspension as well. We got all the harnesses out, because we are going to need to get some of these pieces off of here, and then after we get those out, we're going to get the Sawzall and we're going to start cutting that floor out, and that way we can start trimming it. And before we can even get to any of that stuff, we are going to go ahead and remove the hood off of here, and we are going to cut out this windshield, and we are going to try to do it as gently as possible, because we need to put this windshield in that car, because it has a lane keep assist, which that car did not have. It had the rain sensor, but it didn't have the lane keep assist. And since we're going to be transferring everything from the S6 to the Avant, we need to take this windshield and not crack it, and so we can put it into the Avant. So let's go ahead and remove this hood and the suspension on the rack, and then we'll get to start cutting some of these pieces off. That way we can get closer to start putting the Avant back together. Alright guys, we got the mirror off, we got the typical rain sensor there, but then we got this thing which is works like a camera to keep you inside the lanes. But then I'm also seeing right here, it looks like it has its own defroster and heater, that way this camera probably can see at all times, so it has it clear so it's not fogged up. Windshield out, all in one piece, no cracks. Happy with it. That string that we're using, it's not the easiest. It may be it's not that difficult, but from our experience, that is the safest way to get a windshield out without cracking it. Because if you're trying to cut it or use any other method, you can slip off or put too much pressure on the windshield and it'll crack. This string, it just kind of heats up. It's braided, and it heats up and it just cuts right through that, right along the body. So really happy we got that right out. I'm not cutting this VIN number right off, but check out how this thing is on there. All it is this plastic thing with a little shield. It is just a regular clip. It's not really securely fastened on there in any way, shape, or form. We're going to throw this in the glove box of the Avant. That way if we ever need to order parts, almost all the parts are coming off of this car. So we'll have the VIN handy to order the right parts. Alright guys, so we had to get this fuel tank out because we are planning to cut this piece out so that way we can trim it out really nicely so we don't bend too much. We want to cut this whole piece out of the car, take it out from underneath the car and trim it out on the ground so it's nice and neat. And in order to do that, the gas tank was really close to this wall. So we had to get the gas tank out. To get the gas tank out, had to drop the subframe. Again, for us in Florida, this is really rusty. I know for some of you guys up north or in the colder climates, this is not bad at all, but got everything out. We're going to go ahead and remove the back doors, and we're going to remove these S6 scuff plates out of here because we are planning to cut this section here. Just to chop it out like this. Basically easiest path of least resistance to get this piece out. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to remove the doors, we're going to remove these, and then we're going to remove this piece and the rail. Basically the stuff that we still need for there. And then when we go to cut this out, we don't have to worry about cutting up anything that we might need. So let's get these doors off and keep working. Alright guys, we got winter time in Florida already. I guess it's going to be a little bit short, but we got these moldings off. We're getting ready to cut, but we did realize, we got this piece taken off, but we did realize that this divider, not the firewall itself, the firewall, but this divider is completely different than the other car. So we went ahead and we're going to remove that, and we went ahead and removed this. And this one's aluminum, and the other one is made out of steel. But here's the other thing that we ran into, is that these caps, this is all one piece right here between the strut towers. And the difference is that this 2 inches right here, or 1.5 inches, is just the amount that's not enough for that engine to fit up to this divider. That's why it's different, and that's why the S doesn't have this cross member, but instead has 2 brackets on top of the towers with a removable strut brace. So they basically got rid of this and put a strut brace on there in order to fit the engine. So we got another issue, but we're not giving up. We got a couple more brackets to remove from here, and then we're going to go ahead and cut this and basically fold everything in, weld it up, make it as close to that as possible so we can put that divider in here, so that way the dimensions and everything is exactly the same. So let's go ahead and finish drilling these spot welds out, get these brackets out of here, and do a rough cut to get this piece out of there, and we'll go from there. Well, I can say one thing for certain. This thing was built to last and not come apart. I mean, this thing has been fighting me just tooth and nail to get every last piece out, but I'm just gonna keep going. Alright guys, we're back at the project. It's actually been a couple of weeks since it's been sitting there. We've got a lot of other things going on, but we're getting back to this project. So what we're going to do now is we've got the Sawzall set up. We're going to cut off this front quarter part because we still need this rail and the skins on it. So we're going to go ahead and just cut this on the rail, cut it here, get this piece out of the way, and then we are going to cut this floor all along here where it's soft metal, and basically try getting this all out of there and then trim it out on the ground so it looks like that piece right there. I thought this was going to be a lot heavier, but not bad. Man, those rails, they cut like butter, but this part right here, right where the wheel can get hit in the wheel, and to protect the occupants, you can see on this blade, I mean, it just melted the teeth pretty much off. So this is looking like it's 10 times stronger than what this was. We got a new blade in there. Hopefully we can get through that before it burns this one up. guys, now that we got those pieces cut out of there, I want to take the time to answer a couple of the comments that we had a lot of. Number one comment that we had was, why don't we just buy C6 S6 Avant? Well, because in the United States, it was never offered for sale. They just don't exist here. It's too new to import because you got to be 25 years or older in order to import one. But otherwise, they just don't exist in the United States. That's why we started this project. Number two question is, why didn't we just clip the rear end? Well, let's take a look exactly on why we didn't want to do this. Let's check this out. So this is everything that's not seen, and if I've never taken an Audi or cut an Audi apart like this. So we have an aluminum box frame here with a cross in it that's riveted to this piece of metal that goes into these pinch welds, and then there's more metal there. You got the skin. So I mean, that's quite a bit. I mean, in order to do this right, you would have to open this up in sections and do the exact same thing. Plus you got the factor of the aluminum, it's riveted. That's just not an option in my opinion. And then you got the B-pillars here. Look at this. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of metal. And actually, no, I'm sorry, 4 pieces of metal that all come together and have to be correct. So if you were going to clip this, from how I understand this, is you have a seam here, so this would have to be cut. That aluminum structure goes all the way to the back. Then you got to cut it here, and you got to cut it here in order to replace the whole roof. The biggest concern, I'm keeping this car for a long time. I am going to be putting my kids in there and my wife. My main priority is that the car is safe. The way we're doing it is we're not disrupting the structure of the basically the interior of where the passengers sit. And we're only really cutting and replacing soft metal because the floor here was extremely easy to cut. These rails, all this was extremely easy to cut. It's soft metal. These are all parts designed to crush and absorb energy. Whereas this is just rigid, ultra strong structure to keep the occupants safe. And that's the biggest reason. I mean, it is a big project and a big pain in the butt. But at the end, the most important part is that the people inside are going to be safe. And the last part that I wanted to mention, we actually killed 2 blades when we first started cutting, is this structure right here. It doesn't have like the aluminum box frame in there, but the metal is very thick, and it's really hard, where it was basically just melting the teeth off of the Sawzall blade. And basically from what that's designed, if the accident happens that it misses the rail and the crush points and everything, it hits it right in the wheel, all that mass, if it goes to fly and hits this, it's not going to wind up in your lap. So again, that's the reason we decided to do this the way we decided to do it, is because all this main safety aspects to keep the occupants safe, we are not touching it, and they were undamaged on the wagon, and that's why we're going to do it that way. The last thing that I was also thinking about before we started this, to replace it this way, is, I mean, we're going from a V6 to a 5.2 V10, which has 425 horsepower. I mean, it's at the crank, but still, it's a pretty powerful engine, and I don't want to just be putting around town on this car. I want to have some fun with it, maybe even possibly take it to the track. And you also got to think about, if you weld all those spots on the B pillars, the C pillar, the rockers and everything else like that, when you're giving it power and you're going into turns and everything, the car is going to twist, and it's going to want to twist. And if we would have clipped the car, I don't think the welds, no matter how well you would have welded it, it's still the structure, the metal itself, it's already changed because you're heating it up so much with the welder, and just the twisting and everything, not guaranteed. Maybe the welds would have held, but the metal right around it could have cracked, could have had micro cracks, and down the road it eventually probably would have broken. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but that's my thinking behind it. So I think this way it's going to be a 100% safe car for me to enjoy for many years down the road. Alright guys, so we're going to wrap it up for this episode. The next episode, make sure you tune in, you guys subscribe, turn on your post notifications so you don't miss. We're going to find out whether this piece is going to fit in there. I still don't know myself. We measured it, it should fit, but don't miss it to see if it actually does. We're going to go ahead and trim all this out so that way we have exactly just what we need, and we're going to try fitting it in there. So thank you for watching. We'll see you guys on that next episode.